Remember, today is the 7th of May, 2024. And today, exactly, in 1863, Madagascar King Radama II, during his second year on the throne, outraged many in government and the public when he sought to legalize the French custom of dueling. Already, there was widespread disapproval of his infatuation with all things French. Palace councillors warned him that the measure will lead to chaos. He eventually died in a palace coup d'etat. Today in 1919, Kwame Nkrumah was only 10 years younger. Now the 1919 Paris Peace Conference, which was distributing the spoils of the First World War, awarded German East Africa, that's Tanzania, to Britain, despite the objections of Belgium, which wanted the territory for itself. No Africans were consulted in the transfer of their land's ownership. Today, in 1971, Equatorial Guinea ruler Messias Nguema issued a decree to overturn the constitution and gave himself the powers of the courts, parliament, and cabinet. He had already begun executing his perceived political rivals. Oh gosh. And finally, today in 1987, Ghanaian rapper and fashion designer Maradona Yabua Ejeje, aka Guru. And if you go to Kumasi, they say Gulu. Yes, sir, Gulu. He was born in Accra today in 1987. His 2011 breakout hit La Paz Toyota displayed his signature mix of hip-hop, Afro beats, and dancehall. No two ways about them, Tindamana. This is the African History Class, and my name, Black Rasta.
Yabo!
My brother, my sister, today I'm taking you all the way to South Africa to tell you a story that is going to break your heart. And this story is going to last only 5 minutes. Today we're telling you the story of James Mpanza. James Mpanza. My producer is going to put out a photograph of James Mpanza. James is spelled James. Mpanza is Mpanza. James Mpanza. There is a black and white photograph there. You will see the photograph of James Mpanza right here displayed, right here in black and white. This man was known as the father of Soweto. How many of us remember what Soweto is all about? Now, Soweto is a township right there in South Africa, my brother, my sister, that is noted for black habitation. And it is one of the most decisive places when it comes to survival right there in South Africa. Many songs have been made about Soweto in the past and even at present. Soweto, coming from reality, and one of the biggest reggae songs ever made in the history of Africa also talked about Soweto, and it was described as the biggest song in Africa by the BBC for the decade. Fire is Soweto burning up all the people. And of course, this is from Sonny Okuson's Reverend Sonny Okuson's of blessed memory. This is the African History Class. And today we're talking about James Mpanza. Now, James Mpanza was known in history as the father of Soweto. How did it happen? Can we go into the nitty-gritties of the life of this great man? He was born on the 15th of May. My brother, my sister, the 15th of May in 1889. And he was born in the town of Georgedale in the KwaZulu-Natal. Today that area is known as Mpumalanga. 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 Have you heard about Mpumalanga before? How many people have heard about Mpumalanga before? Put up your hands if you have heard about Mpumalanga. Land of the rising sun. Mpumalanga.
Don't be a Mpumalanga. That beautiful girl from Mpumalanga. Ne?
Mpumalanga. It means the land of the rising sun. That is what it means. That was where he was born, James Mpanza. My brother, my sister, he went to school, but he was not a very brilliant student. He was repeated several times in school, but he was able to make it. From the age of 6 at George Dale Primary School, he displayed a lot of resilience. Even though not so brilliant, he was able to end qualifying with a 3rd class certificate of teaching. My brother, my sister, and he started teaching in the Natal. Hey, he also became a clerk and an interpreter at a solicitor's office. And then he moved on, my brother, my sister, to move into the classrooms where he was teaching. Unfortunately, he was convicted of fraud in 1912. In 1912, how old was our hero? He was 22 and a half years old. My brother, my sister. Then, after he was convicted of fraud in 1912, he was also accused of murder 3 years later in 1915, when he was said to have killed or murdered an Indian shopkeeper called Adam. Now, he appealed against his own case, arguing that he was nowhere near the scene of murder at the time of murder, but he was still convicted and put in there for life. You know what it means to say for life? Life imprisonment. He was in there. A few years later, he converted into Christianity, picked up the Bible after he was moved from one prison to the other for violence. Now, the final prison he found himself in, my brother, my sister, he became a Christian and he started to teach the Bible, and he even wrote a short book on his ideas and began preaching to his fellow preachers, prisoners at the time. My brother, my sister, James Mpanza was known as a Christian missionary even in prison. He would preach and stop a lot of fights, even though he himself was humongously big, full of muscles, and he stood a towering figure like the Colossus of Rhodes. My brother, my sister, this is James Mpanza. Now, fortunately for our hero for today, my brother, my sister, 12 years later, in 1927, he was released. And he came out teaching in Pretoria. He was teaching the Bible and also teaching subjects that he learned in school, including mathematics and the English language. He then moved to Orlando in Johannesburg in 1934. My brother, my sister, hey, he loved to ride horses as well, so he spent time at the race course where he nurtured horses, and he also took part in those races. Now watch this interesting thing. In 1937, 10 years after he was released from prison, he formed the Orlando Boys Club, which was renamed Orlando Pirates Football Club in 1939. How many of us remember the Orlando Pirates? The Orlando Pirates is a big club right there in South Africa. It's one of the biggest, my brother, my sister, and it was this man who founded it in 1937. No two ways about them thing, the man. Listen to this interesting thing yet. Hey, now in 1958, he made a proposal to the city of Johannesburg for a stadium in Orlando, which resulted in the construction of the Orlando Stadium in 1959, 2 years after he proposed. In fact, 1.5 years actually. My brother, my sister, James Sofasonke Mpanzi. Hey, he was moving from height to height. Now, at the time, remember in the days of apartheid, there was so much discrimination against black people. Black people were not given homes. A lot of them were loitering on the streets. They will not even get jobs. They were shot and killed like cats and dogs on the streets of Johannesburg and even beyond. So what he did, he moved all the way into an area which he decided to call the Sofasonke Township. Remember, his middle name was Sofasonke. So he called it the Sofasonke Township. And he invited 8,000 people to come and join him on the Sofasonke Township. And interestingly, before he realized, 20,000 black people had come to join him at the place known as the Sofasonke Township, which later became known as Soweto. My God have mercy. So he was the founder of Soweto. Hi. Many more black people decided to join him. They built houses and he started charging money for people to come and live in that township. He charged only a small amount of money. He provided his own police. He trained people there to become police, some of them to become nurses and teachers. He built a whole township independent of the system of apartheid. Oh my God, an independent township out of South Africa. In Nigeria, they will be calling it something else. And you know how fella called his own thing, right? My brother, my sister, this is James Sofasonke Mpanza. The Kalakuta Republic, fella would have called it, but he called it the Sofasonke Township, and people were so scared to go in there. My God have mercy. Hi. Nobody white was allowed into that township. Not the white police, not the white horse, not even the white woman. My brother, my sister, it was all black. And up to this date, Soweto has maintained that identity of notoriety. My brother, my sister. Now this are very beautiful things you can find around Soweto. I was in Soweto and I went around this. You can see the F&B and so on and so forth. This is Soweto, and that's the whole township of Soweto, which now has millions of people living there. It started with only 8,000 people. My brother, my sister, today, squatters are all over the place, and it is the home of so many different people from South Africa and beyond. My God have mercy. And for you to win elections in South Africa, you need to have Soweto. No two ways about them, Tindemana. Today we remember this great black man. Mpanza died in 1970 at his home in Orlando East, and he was given a huge civic funeral and buried in Jabulani, Soweto, right there at the cemetery known as the Dumkop Cemetery. Today we remember this great black man. The black man who defied all odds. Not even prison could stop him. He came out and became a preacher man. He founded a whole city. Today is known as Soweto. He initially came from the land of Mpumalanga. Yes, the land of the rising sun. Oh, Papa. Today we remember you, Papa. Papa, uninyamenko. Papa, misi wa yebi. Yeah, Papa, me go wate. Papa, me go. Papa, me go. Papa, me si fami go wate. Papa, Mpanza, me si fami go. Papa, uninyamenko. Me si Papa, wa yebi wate. Papa, why am you? Papa, me never go out. Yeah, Papa, me never go. Papa, me never go out. Well, yeah. Today, when we talk about Soweto, we are talking about James Sofasonke Mpanza. He died at the age of 81. My brother, my sister. And was buried in Jubilani, Soweto, at the Dumkop Cemetery, Soweto. He lived his life in Soweto. He died in Soweto. A lot of great people came out of Soweto and fought for the independence of South Africa. Today, this man should be called the father of South Africa. Black South Africa. Today, we remember you, Papa.
tutu babi, papa mula home, mama mula home, how na ima vinye, banum po.
And my name certainly Black Rasta has been the African historic class.
The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.
Hey,
Zabu, zabu, reigning by.